Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of The Business of YouTube. Today we talk sports, piracy, new way of monetizing platforms, and of course, YouTube being the business of YouTube. And we're going to do that with Eyal Arad. He's been in the industry for a long time, so he's going to have a lot of good stories about all of this, a good view on the future, but also a lot of data. Like he's definitely a data guy, so that's why that's going to be a very interesting conversation. We've known each other for a while, even before like we were working in sports at all. And so I'm very happy to welcome on board Eyal Arad, co-founder and CEO of Videocites. Welcome.
Thanks, Paula. Great being here.
Thank you for being here because I really appreciate the stories and the views of leaders that have been there, like entrepreneurs and leaders that have been there, seeing the whole industry evolving, and definitely in the last 10 plus years, the industry, tech / media / rights / like platforms has been evolving so much. So I'm very curious to know your point of view about that.
Well, maybe I'll start a little bit about me and about Videocites, and I think
What's your story? That would be.
We've started Videocites almost 10 years ago with a great video technology that is able to track and identify video content all across social media. And we've spent the first few years in building this great engine that could find every piece of your content, short and long. But the business back then was mostly, pirated content. Everything was considered piracy, and this is what we did in the first few years. But I think when it's got very interesting, and forgive me, I'm just jumping right in, where it became very interesting is about 5 years ago during COVID, we started pivoting into, I call it the positive side of copies, meaning how fans create content around you and it's not considered piracy. And I think the industry changed a lot in that direction. It's still changing a lot in that direction. And for us as a company, it took us from an anti-piracy company into, we're still doing anti-piracy, but a lot of what we do today is basically analytics and how to create new values from what your fans create across social media.
And why did you start Videocites in the first place? So we're looking at 2014, correct?
Yeah.
So what was that back then, and why did you start?
So it was a combination of several things. I was finishing my previous startup, and we have a great story because we've started Videocites basically as a project in my MBA, and my professor at the time loved the project so much. It was an MBA project, and he loved it so much that once we graduated, he gave me a call and said, "Let's make a real startup out of it." He's a very well-known entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. Today, he's my chairman, and one of my partners in the MBA is my co-founder. So we started Videocites together back then, identifying that we have a great technology and a great need in the industry for identifying the video content that back then was all over the place, no control, and nobody knew where his content is being shared or re-uploaded once it goes online. Much like it is today, but I think it was, we started seeing the problem back then.
Well, it was a very impactful MBA for all of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, usually as well, like when you think about starting a company, it's basically running an MBA like on the go, because I mean you need to learn how everything works. You did both, did the MBA and the company. I mean you're double degrees basically. But so now, like fast forward, so you said basically it was really about finding the assets there, because the key thing the platform brought when they were disrupting the whole ecosystem and the value chain from a production to distribution point of view and consumer usage as well point of view, it was like giving the option to users and fans to create content, which is good and bad in a way. So it's bad if it's piracy, so it's infringing copyright, absolutely. It's good because it shows fandom. So there are different ways to look at it. And also in terms of value. And how do you see it today as well, like from your experience and what you're doing at Videocites as we speak?
So we are seeing this changing all the time. I think 5 years ago, most rights holders would look at, let's call it fandom and fan engagement as mostly piracy. And wouldn't even look at user-generated content and say, this is all piracy, I don't care, don't show me anything else. Show me only how you take it down. I think it started changing about 5 years ago, especially with major leagues in the US, and when we see it also evolving into Europe and other places in the world. There are some areas that are piracy with no doubt. Like if we're talking about someone live streaming your game or your event, that's piracy. We will take it down within 3 to 5 minutes, and that's great. That's no question about it. But when we're talking about non-live content, this is where the threshold and the policy changes between each rights holder. Some are very open. Some say block everything, even a 10-second clip of someone shooting at the golf course or at the basketball court. Shut down everything. Everything is piracy. And a lot of it now is in the middle. So most now are in the middle saying, if this is up to 3, 5, 10 minutes, it's fair use. Let my audience create content out of it. As long as you or Videocites can track it, show it to me, and help me make new types of revenues and new type of data and analytics I can use for my marketing purposes, for my sales and sponsorship purposes, for my creator programs, and so on. But if it's too long or infringes my policy, we will take it down.
And do you see any difference between different continents, like Europe versus US, in terms of approach to it?
Yeah, definitely. The US are very business oriented. If I can show you there is an extra money, either in YouTube monetization, in fan created content, it's a business. And in Europe, it sometimes moves slower. There are other considerations. And in one case study we've done, and we're releasing these days, we have shown that, much surprising, to a lot of rights holders, but I think they suspected it for a long time. They always looked at UGC, it's piracy, I don't want to measure it even. Don't even show me fan created content. Even if I have fans there, don't show me these numbers, they are considered piracy. I'm not sure that they will take it down, but they consider it as piracy, even the 20-second fan from the audience. What we were able to show them is that over 90% of user-generated content, over 90%, is not game footage. And that's I think is mind-blowing for a lot of leagues, saying the whole point was the broadcasters. They didn't want to upset broadcasters, saying they bought the rights for the game, and now someone is reusing it on his own channel. That's why I cannot use it. Now we're showing them, guys, it's less than 10%. Most of the fan-created content, it's valuable. It's gaining millions and millions of views and engagements that you were just not looking at. But there's so much value there. And there are so many types of value that you can create to all of your organization. But that's, to us, it's an educational process. We need to go league by league, show them their case studies, show them how they can use it, and start opening up this resistance to UGC.
Yeah, UGC sounds like a bad word in a lot of discussions, but which is, I think we need to change the acronym because I think it's just a bad reputation in a way.
I sometimes call it created content, just not to use UGC.
Yeah, because it sounds very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, although it depends. The reality is it depends. It's not good or it's not bad. What you do with it is the difference, and how you can actually call it then. But I'm just actually wondering, like, now that you were talking about the live rights, of course, I mean, the real value historically has been the live rights, because that's the big business models were built on it. But what's the perception you're getting from the market then, from the archive? Because what I see a lot of UGC, or like created content, curated content, let's call it whatever, but it's really about as well like going back into archives. And there is actually a lot of people like to watch, I mean, gold collections from 10 years ago. Like there's a whole big thing. Like the other day, my kid was even saying like, do you know Barrichello? And he's like 6, and I'm like, yeah, I know Barrichello, but how can you know Barrichello really? I was like, I was like surprised. It's like, I was a kid. And he was like, yeah, I watched a YouTube video. And I'm like, this is archive that is like for me to watch, and it's archive for him to watch. And that's like multiplying the life of whatever content that was there. But what's your like feeling on the perception of the archive versus the live? Because there's a lot of value that is really not perceived from the industry.
I think this is a great evolvement of the industry with new AI tools. Companies like WSC that are working with leagues, since broadcasters have no resistance on using archive content, they are able to give fans and give the leagues another monetization avenue in creating new, refreshed, and exciting clips from all of their archives in a very automated and fast way. And for the leagues, it's a new revenue stream. They can make money out of it on YouTube and other platforms, and also engage with creators in that domain. While live is live, you sold the rights to a broadcaster, you don't want to, get
You
in
don't want
there.
to mess up with that. That's fine.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You don't want to mess with that. And
Fair
it's
enough, I would
very
say.
clear. Yeah, it's a very clear differentiation and very efficient way of using AI to build new tools for monetization. Why not upsetting your broadcasters?
But also, like most of the especially the younger generation, they're really interested in everything outside the live, which is like a whole new value or creation potential. It's like live is interesting to them, but not necessarily the key thing for them. So it's a whole new way to engage with the new audience that is not even interesting in that as much as older generations are.
One of our clients did a big research comparing our real-time data of short forms during non-live short forms during the event, comparing it to the Nielsen data of live engagement, and they actually saw it's the other way around. It's not stealing your eyeballs. If you create engaging content, like if the league creates engaging content or fans create engaging content during the game, people go and open the TV to see what's going on. So
Yeah, it's the other way around.
Right? It's the other way around. It's not stealing your eyeballs. You're correct that people are engaging very differently today, but if something engaging is going on, they would want to go in and see.
So it's very complementing. The offering is not, it's not like on the prime time that you're competing with it. It's like complementing it. It's like, and usually people are in more screen than one. Like you're not just watching one screen, you're watching 2 screens at least. So that's a very good opportunity for getting eyeballs, but monetizing those eyeballs in a very different way as well for sponsors. I mean, if you catch them like twice as much, and it means they're very engaged with that content. That is a real commercial value there.
I'll tell you more than that. And one thing that we are analyzing for our clients is, let's say, if you are a team, no matter football or soccer or basketball or whatever, you're creating a lot of content, and part of your ability to show your sponsors that they're getting value is that their brand is seen in everything you're creating on social media. Of course, there's the linear, there are other domains, but on social media, you want to show them that their brand, their patch is being seen quite clearly and gets a lot of engagement. What we are able to tell them is, guys, beyond your own channels, your media partners are creating content around you. All of your affiliates, the league is creating content around you. Your influencers, your fans are creating content around you. In that content, your sponsors is being seen, and they're getting extra exposure. It could be 10 times bigger than what you're showing them today.
Easily.
Easy. So we actually analyze it to them and we show them. And by the way, the average number for a team would be 10x. For leagues, it's sometimes lower, just because they're creating on their own a lot of content. But if you can show your sponsors 10x on the media value, the effective brand exposure that they're getting, just because your fans are creating a lot of content, that's great. That's actually a better ROI for your sponsor. So
yeah, 100%.
This is a great way or example of how you can find new ways to monetize your fans instead of killing them as pirates like you would have done 5 to 10 years ago. Now you can actually measure what they create and make better money, much better money with your sponsors, because you can now try to upsell or optimize your sponsorship agreements.
Yeah, I think it's a complete different paradigm that you're just switching kind of the way of looking at it, because from a brand perspective, you want to reach the right audience and in big numbers. And that's why you invest in sports, to be honest. And not leveraging those numbers where like it's really engaged audience, it's like a really missed opportunity. But they're doing it. It's just that like the sponsorship teams need to be able to actually show those numbers. And that's, I think, that's the tricky part, because if you don't do it, you're missing out on a commercial opportunity, and everybody's happy because the fans want to do it. You as a club or right owner, you want to sell it, and you want to make sure that the fans are happy and the sponsors are happy and the sponsor wants to reach the audience. So it's like kind of an alignment of stars as we speak.
It's a better transparency. And by the way, brands want to know it, because if I'm a brand and I want to put my money on buying a patch with an MLB team, I want to make it the one that will get me the best return. So if I can see who's bringing the best return, including their fans, including their, everything outside their own channels, which is a small fraction of it, this is where I want to be investing my money. So it's coming from both directions, basically.
And is there any good example that you've seen working in this way from your experience?
Well, I've got several. We've got clients both from the team side and the agency side that were able to, let's call it, align the true numbers of exposure. We've got LAFC, LA Football Club, that have done it for several years with us, with their sponsors, and we're able to show better value year over year and then grow. And by the way, one of the claims that they were able to say is, you can see that year over year, the UGC piece is not random. It's just growing. It's not going down. And this is something very important for a brand to say, I want to know that this is not, again, they don't know the UGC or fan-created content. They don't know it yet, so they also need to be educated. This is another value that they need to work with. But I will say that in addition to the brand exposure itself, the team itself is a brand, or the league itself is also a brand. So if I'm LAFC, if I'm the NBA, I can use this number to show that my reach is 3, 5, 10 times bigger on a PR purpose, on a benchmarking to other teams in my league. This is a very powerful thing to say when you want to attract audience, when you want to attract players. This is a very powerful way for you to benchmark yourself against anyone else globally.
Yeah, and usually not used as much. So definitely, it's a very powerful one, because it's a very comprehensive number, and a very realistic number. Because if you're like just reporting what your team is doing is like so much below what the realistic number is, and you're really underselling yourself 100%.
Right. Absolutely.
But how mature do you think the industry is, the sport industry, in terms of leveraging the platforms and having this kind of mindset of leveraging both their own content on the platforms and the UGC, let's call it UGC, so we're using the bad word, the UGC content on the social platforms?
I think it really changes between leagues. Some leagues are really at the forefront of utilizing this data and constantly learning and evolving. And some leagues are, again, still looking at it I'm not sure if it's piracy or not. And again, this is our struggle all day is educating our clients. Some clients are taking it. I'll give you a few examples, and I can mention the NBA as one of the first ones that started using our data. Every business unit within the NBA, I say almost every business unit, is basically looking at this data and saying, I need this data for my utilization. So I'll give you the example. In addition to the marketing, looking at content and how fans create it and how it echoes, and how you create content and it echoes with your fans, has a lot of impact on your production, right? Finding those key fan creators that are already creating content around you, and they gain hundreds of thousands of followers creating content around you. Basically, they are your fans. Their fans or their followers are your fans as well. These guys are the best influencers or micro influencers you would want. So a lot of our clients are building their creator program or influencer program, and they are surfacing, or we are surfacing for them, or they're prospecting new influencers from these fans. Basically, let's work with these guys. They have a different voice than us. We would never be able to create the content in the way that they're creating it. So what if they're using our IP? If we can work together and then get better reach globally, that's great. If I'm a league that wants to expand internationally, or a team that wants to expand internationally, let's find a great creator in Brazil that is already creating content around me and has 200,000 followers, and harness him and bring him to my ecosystem, give him content, give him tools so we can start creating more content. But then I'm gaining from this. And that's the most advanced approach that we're trying to push all leagues and all rights holders to get to this understanding that they're not pirates, they're your fans. If they're not streaming your game, they're your fans. They're doing it because they loved you, because they enjoy watching your content, and they're creating something special. Use them. You don't need to have a small influencer program of 20 people. You can make it thousands just by opening up to your fans globally.
Yeah, it's like if you weren't a sports in the sport industry, but if you were a CPG, for example, it's like you don't want to upset your clients because like they're buying your goods. It's like your clients, so you definitely don't want that. And if you just compare that to this, it's like you actually want them to talk about you, and they're doing your marketing for you. So
Exactly.
not only is a revenue stream, it's like they are they are your advertising plus bringing you revenue, and they are buying your products. It's like that's the perfect combination when that happens.
Absolutely.
Of course, within guidelines, it's not that everything is permitted. It should be like guided and led by the brand, which is better than
You're
just
correct.
let it go and see whatever it happens. It's like just
You're correct.
actually be on top of it and embrace it, and let them freedom, give them freedom, but make sure that it's a win-win situation. So you need to be on top of it.
Right. So you give them freedom, you give them your guidelines, but you tell them, guys, you can use even more content. I will give you raw footage. Just don't use it for piracy. This is where my limits are. Use it as much as you want, make as much engagement as you can, as long as you're not competing with me or infringing my policy. And this way you can make money with them as they grow. And by the way, we have several NBA creators that we have helped the NBA identify 3-4 years ago. Today, they are great, I want to say, influencers on their own. They already have more than they have millions of followers on their own, and they can start making money now that they're so big with brands themselves. So, which is great. They can start creating other types of content, get sponsorship from brands. And this is how you grow your fans. It's like an academy. You can grow your fans from being small into big influencers, and everybody wins.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation if it's managed correctly. So 100%. And what do you see as well? Like you've seen different platforms, and probably when you started, YouTube was still the only one or ish, like back in the days. But of course, like YouTube being the first one on the video side, and growing. Now it's 20 years, which for me it's a lot of time. For the industry is not, but for you probably it's quite a while too. Where do you see YouTube in these platforms as in terms of maturity and opportunity as well for the industry?
Well, YouTube has definitely done a lot of strategic involvement over the years and still is. And I think it's very clear that they are very mature in this domain. You can see it on the monetization side and how they are actually helping a lot of rights holders make money on owned and even third party or fan created content where they don't necessarily take it down. They give them the opportunity to put a pre-roll on the content, everything content ID is identifying, and then a league can make or a league and team can make money just by uh, working with YouTube. And this is great. But I think what YouTube is pushing right now is both shorts on one side, but very long form content on the other is a very deep and strategic move, which again also helps making a lot of money for the rights holders and sports. Of course, they have very good reasons to go in both these directions with all of the different competition and strategic domains that they go to. I think in some ways, and I'm connecting this again to fans and how they create content. Well, on one side, there is a lot of opportunity to go, and part of the areas that we work with rights holders is how do you identify those creators on YouTube and work best with them, the ones that are below radar, and find them because we have so much data about how your fans create content on YouTube and other places. We can see the patterns of who are the ones creating most content around you, who's most efficient, and so on, and then how to navigate them to monetization. And of course, we find if, let's say, content ID is not a perfect tool, we can help leagues increase their monetization from content ID by 50 to 80% because of the ability to find everything that YouTube is not finding. So increasing monetization on YouTube for every rights holder, but at the same time, helping them build their own creator programs like Playmakers for the NBA within the YouTube ecosystem.
And is there any specific example that you have from YouTube specifically on as a platform, like a right holder being very advanced that you're working with?
Well, I want to say we work with most major leagues in the US, but I will still echo the NBA again and
NBA.
They are in the forefront of everything digital, so it's very easy choice for me. They have been adapting their policy, and I think something around 5 years ago they've decided to open up fans or the policy to everything up to 10 minutes, meaning if I'm a fan and I'm creating a great analysis of a game or commentary over 5-6 minutes, it's fine. If you're doing it right and we can monetize it on YouTube with you, coming to our program, coming to our creator program, our Playmakers, you can make money, we can make money, and we will actually endorse it and we will support it. So the ability of saying 5 minutes, even 10 minutes is a long time. A lot of rights holders would say, no, this is infringing my rights, it's stealing my eyeballs. But they have seen that it's a whack-a-mole game. They cannot really fight it. I mean, they can theoretically. I think it's something we could have done years ago. We've had this discussion with them saying, can you take down all of my UGC? And they said, yeah, we can take down everything UGC, but
yeah, you can definitely, technically, yes.
Technology to do it, it will kill your audience. So they flipped and opened up very broadly. And I think today they're just making a lot more money from UGC and with UGC on YouTube and in other platforms just by this approach.
Yeah, and this reminds me very much the approach of the music industry back in the days, which, I mean, I think it's a playbook. I think it should be studied in sport. It's like learn what the music industry did and just do it ahead of time. Because at the beginning, the music industry was fighting it for good reasons, the piracy and everything. But then if you look at the numbers, after a while, it's like the money you make with the contents because the fan love the music as they love the sport. You will never make those numbers without the content ID and the UGC content because it's impossible for a right owner to actually do that and get into all the audience. And that's that goes back to the 10x, and it's actually even more for the music industry, and it can be more for the sport industry. I think that the big opportunity is like at the beginning you think you want to block everything, and that's the normal impact. But then it's like, okay, how can you make business out of it and actually enhance it? And the music industry went through it, and actually most of the money comes from content ID, and it will be that way for a long time. So I would be surprised if in 3 to 5 years it's not exactly the same thing in the sport industry. But yeah, I get to the point that you were making about the education. I think it requires a lot of knowledge and feeling comfortable with that as well. And I think that
I see
sharing
this very realistic.
samples and data is the way to go, because then that's very black and white.
Yeah, I see it very as a very holistic view. I think in the past you had no control of your content, so you just say, let's take down everything. Now that you're getting more visibility into the content, you can start working on how do I optimize my revenues. So as you just said, if of course I will take down everything that is live because it's taking my revenue out of my broadcasters. It's one very clear thing. But then how do I make most money out of the non-live short form content that is out there? How can I make most revenue out of that? And let's look at it as a business and say, if I'm changing my policy, and by the way, one of the things that we are seeing with all of our customers across the years is how do I adapt my policy to optimize revenues? So if it's up to 2 minutes that I'm allowing, up to 3 minutes, what happens if I'm moving to up to 5 minutes? Am I making more money? Right? That's a great question for every rights holder to ask himself. How can I change my policy to make more money?
Actually, to that point, when you were talking about that, going from 5 to 10 minutes, that's a very smart move, because once you already have the program, and I mean, it doesn't change much, 5 to 10 minutes. It's like you're changing a rule. But the reality from a revenue perspective, because like mid-rolls are like available on YouTube when you have minimum 8 minutes, that means that if you're actually getting anything above 8 minutes, it's like twice as much straight away, like boom. It's like an obvious kind of step from a very small change. Actually, like technically, is a very small change, changing the guideline. It's not going to change much in terms of rights.
If you call it a simple change, to a lot of rights holders, this is a huge change. But as you just said and very simply analyzed it, if this makes you more money, this is exactly the consideration that rights holders need to be asking themselves more.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, last question, because I think we could go over and over all our examples and what the industry is doing, and that's going to be very interesting. But I don't want to steal more of your time. But and this might be personal, career-wise question. I really enjoy that, because it's I really like to tell the story of the people behind the businesses. But what are you most proud of? What makes you very happy that you did, or you're doing, or you will do?
This is you're an entrepreneur, you know it. I think building this business from scratch is one very deep thing that I'm very proud of. But I think, and again, this is very personal to me, maybe my co-founders will give you a different answer. To me, bringing this new angle and helping big clients like the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, opening their eyes, and all of the other clients, and helping the ecosystem evolve into this new era is something I'm really proud of. And it's exactly what we just talked about, how to shift from everything piracy into work with your fans. This is exactly the part that I'm super proud of.
Yeah, you definitely should be. I think it's moving the needle for the whole industry. So it's a big task, but that's I can very much relate to that. I totally get it as an entrepreneur, and do it like while you're changing that perception and the industry, and doing that with all of the easy and not easy tasks of every day for an entrepreneur, which is interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for telling us your story and sharing the story with us and your view. I really appreciate the chat and being on the Business of YouTube podcast, Eyal. Thank you very much.
It was great. Thank you.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.